So this is going to be a bit of a review, first impressions of Architects of the West Kingdom by Shem Phillips and Renegade Games. I played Architects of the West Kingdom yesterday really, and this is not a full review. There's no way I experienced this game enough to really give a review, and I've talked about this before with the concept of review versus first impressions, but I would say that there are times when I play a game once, and I feel I have a good enough picture of the game to really provide a review, a review that's lacking for sure, but a review. I would say Architects of the West Kingdom, based on my one play, it certainly deserves more plays before I could call it a review. There was a lot more to explore in the game that I did not, and I will not because, well, I'll get to that shortly, but I would definitely call this far more of a first impressions than a review. There is more there, and it's buried underneath the next 2 or 3 plays. So Architects of the West Kingdom, this is the second main series from them. They had the whole Raiders of the North Sea, and that had a sequence that had Shipwrights of the North Sea, Raiders of the North Sea, and I believe one other, I can't recall it offhand, but I didn't feel, from that series I played Raiders of the North Sea with all the expansions. I thought it was an enjoyable game, but not a game I felt the need to own. I played it 3 or 4 times, somewhere in that range, and I don't feel the need to own it past those plays. It was fun, it was good, it was what I generally refer to as a little bit more than a lightweight game while being not enough for a heavy game. It didn't have that satisfying feeling compared to what it was. I mean, I would equate it to the same weight as games like Glenmore, like Five Tribes. Maybe Glenmore's a little higher, but Five Tribes perhaps. And I find Five Tribes and Kingdom Builder and the like significantly more enjoyable. So I got rid of Raiders of the North Sea. Architects of the West Kingdom is simultaneously a step forward and a step backwards for me in that one play, and I didn't feel the need to keep it for a second play based on my experience. So to begin with, let's cover the basic gameplay. At its core, it's a worker placement game, and it has a very well done worker placement mechanic that I really enjoyed. As the game started, I thought this might be a keeper. The first half of the game, I would say I was really leaning towards keeping the game, and then as the synergies, or in our case, the lack thereof, came to be, that's when I decided to get rid of it. So what you do every round is you take your guy, and it's got the fast-moving gameplay that was very, very there in Raiders, and I love that. It's very, very engaging. You take a guy, put it out, do the thing. Take a guy, put it out, do the thing, going round and around and around, and the game can really flow pretty quickly. What makes it interesting is that each time you place a guy in a spot, so you take your guy and you place him on wood, and you collect 1 wood per guy you have there. Next turn you take another guy, you put him out, and now you have 2 guys, so you collect 2 wood. Your actions in almost every spot in the game get progressively more powerful the more guys you have there, which is fascinating. It's a lot of fun to put out your guy on the wood spot and get 7 wood. It's really, really enjoyable. Just have a horde of wood just stacked up on your player board waiting for you to capitalize on it. And there are ways to capitalize on it. The counter to this is that one of the locations in the game, the town hall, town center or something, is a place where you can go to capture other players' pieces, which is a twofold benefit. The first is that when you capture their pieces, you're first going to capture them, and in a subsequent turn you can then send them to prison, and you'll get 1 silver for each person you send to prison. So that does motivate you to capture other players' pieces. And the second is obviously you're stopping their engine. That guy across the table from you who's currently getting 7 wood per placement, or more with his next placement, by capturing his pieces, you're cutting his engine short. And that's a lot of fun. Now what I don't like in games, and this game does it well, what I don't like is when a game forces you to stop other players, but you have to effectively take one for the team. This winds up in a stupid cycle where all the players are waiting for someone else to take one for the team, and the other player is either going to win, or someone's going to eventually have to step up and hurt his own game therefore. So this game, by giving you silver for each person you send to prison, gives you the incentive. Meaning this is not purely a stop that guy from winning with his runaway strategy, but rather you are incentivized through a cash reward to step in and stop people. Now, like other locations in the game, that town center becomes progressively more powerful. The first time you go there, you capture 1 group of people. If you put another guy there, you capture 2 groups of people. So it gets progressively more powerful where you can become this person who ends up stopping multiple players at once with a single placement. Lots of fun. Really, really lots of fun. For me, the game fell short because past a few synergies, I felt like it was a great engine and a great game, but a lot of places in the game kind of felt weak. A lot of places felt like there wasn't enough synergy, like the game wasn't building off of itself enough. So for example, one of the places you can go is the prison to free your guys. And when you put one guy there, you can freeze your guys. But you can take an action for each guy you have there. When you put multiple people, the other actions there aren't really as helpful. They are situationally helpful, but in our game at least, most of the players, when they went to the prison, they only were taking one, maybe two actions, and so each additional person just felt wasted. The tax stand, where you can collect tax that players are paying, which I love the tax mechanic, but that in the tax stand, again, you put a guy there, and each additional person you put there, it doesn't do anything for you. The first guy is helpful, and the second guy is dead weight. You're just not triggering a cascading action. The black market, which was fascinating because the black market in the game is this reset switch where once 3 black market spaces are taken, then the prison resets and there are player abilities that reset. And the black market in this game never triggered from everyone taking all 3 spots. There's another way as the game progresses where it can trigger, and those are inherent in the game finishing, and those triggered. But the black market, from everything we could see, felt like it was something that was important to the motion of the game, to the sequencing of the game, and yet no one really went there. Now, perhaps we just don't know what we're doing. I mean, I remember when I first played Brass and I had to ask a question about why there was not enough iron or one of the resources, and they were like, well, there should always be enough, but you're doing something wrong. Fine, but it didn't... I'm not sure whether I can call it a flaw in the game, maybe a flaw in the player count, maybe it's not even something that's supposed to happen and I'm just assuming. But it seemed like the black market triggering often was something that was supposed to happen, and it only triggered twice, the 2 mandatory triggers it will have, and it never triggered a third time. For whatever reason, it wasn't appealing enough for people to go there, and they didn't. I don't know what that means, I don't know what it says, but it felt like something that was supposed to happen and didn't. There's a concept of debts in the game, that when you go, there's a little virtue track on the side, and when you go too low you'll take debts, and when you go too high you'll pay off those debts for free as an extra action. And the person who was playing the low virtue never really got debts, and there was only one other place in the game where you can really take debts, which is there's a few cards and whatnot, but the debts rarely entered the game. So the players who were at the top of the virtue track, they were cascading to the above levels of virtue. At the top of the virtue track, they were triggering the extra levels of virtue and not paying off any debts. It was a weird cycle where it felt like debts should have been entering the game. Maybe to the point I'm wondering whether I should read the rulebook again. Maybe I missed something, but it felt like debts should be entering the game on a somewhat regular basis, and it wasn't. They just weren't. So this person at the top of the virtue track just kept pinging above without getting the benefit of pinging above. All the players in the game, we had a 5-player game, and all the players, the player who was kind of straddling in the middle of the virtue track didn't really have these complaints, but the 2 players who were at the bottom of the virtue track and the 2 players who were at the top all felt that there was a lack of synergy in what's supposed to happen in the game. It just felt like it didn't feel like the things were playing off of each other so much as mechanics were in play that didn't end up happening. One of the things I love about Coimbra is an incredible game, not really comparable to this, it's much heavier Euro, but Coimbra, everything you do reminds you of the levels of synergy that the designers had in place in that game. And when I played Architects of the West Kingdom, everything we did felt like there was a bunch of good ideas and they didn't synergize. It could be just one play. I mean, this game is well received. People like it. I was looking forward to it. The basic mechanic of the game was far more interesting than Raiders of the North Sea, but because the entire game, to everyone at the table, felt like there were a bunch of well-done mechanics and a complete lack of how they synergize with each other, we all kind of felt it wasn't worth playing a second time. I'm sure it is. This is something we cover a lot, which is this is a well-rated game. The people like this game. This game trades every time off the shelf. I can't keep this in stock. This is a well-rated game. I am sure we are missing something, or I'm sure it's good for the right group of people. That group clearly was not our group based on this play. It didn't synergize well for us, but it had an interesting system that I'd love to see implemented again. I love that cascading actions, and I loved the capturing of the workers. That part worked out very nicely. Everything else in the game kind of fell flat for us. We played it, took about an hour and a half, and by the time it was done, we didn't feel that we wanted to commit another hour and a half to it. Seems like a great game. I have Paladins of the West Kingdom on my shelf. I'm looking forward to giving that one a shot. I'm sure one of these will hit one of these days, but I can say that these games are very accessible. They're very easy to teach. They're very quick moving. So far, despite not keeping Raiders and despite not keeping Architects, I am simultaneously not keeping them while being very impressed with what they're bringing to the hobby, to the genre. I mean, these are games like Stone Age had a very accessible game that kind of, I mean, it's not as common that we have these super accessible, lightweight, quick-moving games, and it's really, I mean, again, despite not keeping it, I was impressed with it. I just wish that we felt the synergies more than we did. Ultimately, that's my review / first impressions of Architects of the West Kingdom. Give it a try. Let me know how you feel. I'm very curious if you feel that we missed something, misplayed. I'm curious if you enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it and the reasons for that. This video is brought to you by BoardGameCo. I'm Alex from BoardGameCo. You can like the video down below. You can subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. You can watch another video over here. BoardGameCo is a great company. We buy, sell, trade games. Come on by, give us a shot, and until the next time, I'm Alex. Have a good one.